appreciate, but we're opening to 1 million Syrians, but they're only temporary in our country. They can't come to Britain. Now, that's true, except for the fact that if you're resident in an EU country for 3 years, you can get a passport of that country. Once you get a passport of that country, you can go to any other EU country. In 3 years' time, these million citizens have the right, million Syrians have the right to come to Britain. Not going to happen. Not going to happen.
It's definitely, listen, I understand the point about political culture and being different than America, and it's a fair point. But I think that you guys are really on the doorstep of what can be the front line to possibly the brewings of a multi-regional conflict between the Middle East and Europe. And, you know, thank goodness you have that channel, you know, man. I think that's going to be that it's been pivotal for generations and centuries. It's going to remain pivotal for you guys.
Well, you know, there was an expert in Belgium today who suggested that every single mosque in Brussels is now controlled by the Islamists. Now, thankfully, we have different relations, because I think the critical point, by the way, that I should explain is this. What we're saying, what we've had historically, is actually immigration from Muslim countries that do like Britain, right, do support us, and have been with us for 2 world wars. Is that perfect? I'm not saying it's perfect, no, I'm not. But I think there is a critical difference, all of which apparently are now taken over by the extremists. Actually, there's a far smaller problem in the UK. You know, every summer it gets worse with the invasion of immigrants coming to Europe, and the EU has manifestly failed to deal with it. And if France ends up in a nightmare, you know, they call it sort of rioting. It's almost like an Islamic insurgency in many respects, what happens in Paris. Do you know there's a tradition in French cities amongst immigrants from North Africa to burn cars, not their own cars, of course, on New Year's Eve? Do you know the French media don't even report it? What a shocking indictment of the way that Europe has gone.
And, you know, we can talk about this all day, man, but listen, I'm glad you're safe from this whole situation that happened last week. I totally agree with the article that you wrote recently from The Observer about how police that were unarmed should definitely be armed, and how this was a blunder for all times. Folks, check out AndreWalker.uk. You can check him out also at The Observer, all the articles he writes. Andre, thank God you're okay, man. Great to hear from you, and we'll talk again real soon. And that'll just about do it for this week's show, but a final thought. And this one's a little personal, folks. It's not going to come from me. It's going to come from my friend Jack Buckby, another friend from across the pond. I want you to listen to his story about how anti-fascists have been going after him, his fiancée, and how his life is being ruined. And then there's a way to help.
I was 16 when I realised that Britain wasn't the multicultural paradise our leaders told us. In college, I was surrounded by young lads who called themselves communists. Teachers were openly leftist, and it seemed that I was the only person there with questions about immigration. I first realised just how serious the political left was about silencing questions when a group of young men muttered scum as I walked past. That's when I realised I was part of the Untermensch, a working class straight white man who didn't deserve an opinion and who will forever be branded wicked. When I got to university, things were much worse. This was in 2011, before the safe spaces, before Trigglypuff. I'd attempted to set up a culturist society where students could celebrate British culture. I was, of course, promptly shut down by the National Union of Students, branded a racist and harassed on campus. Merely handing out leaflets on campus required a bodyguard, and as months went by, the police would contact me concerned for my safety on the University of Liverpool campus. I was forced to stay at home, studying from my bedroom and avoiding the campus at all costs. When I did in fact turn up for my class, I was asked by my politics lecturer to remove the Christian cross I wore on my lapel. It was offending the other students, he said. The same lecturer conspired with other university officials to have me removed from the school, branding me a problem in official emails that were later handed over to me. They even claimed that I had been removed from class for being racist and offending other students. Quite a feat for somebody who was forced to study at home. Other students attempted to physically attack me too. I was accosted by a gang of students the same day that I came face to face with posters which likened me to mass murderer Anders Breivik. This wasn't the first time so-called anti-fascists had attempted to physically attack me. In 2013, I was expelled from the university. Officials claimed that my tweets violated the school's equality and diversity policy and painted the institution in a negative light. They also took issue with my public disagreement with Dr. Leon Musavi, who had written an article on the university website claiming the murder of Lee Rigby was legitimate dissent against British foreign policy. Musavi kept his job. I was expelled. The article remains on the school website to this day, too. So in 2014, I stood for election in in the southeast of England. With no hope of winning, myself and Paul Weston, the chairman of Liberty GB, set out to begin a campaign of exposing the effects of Islam on our Western liberal democracy. During a campaign event, Muslim women in burqas confided in me. They told me that they had come to Britain for a better life, one of freedom, and yet their husbands still exerted control over them. They offered me their vote, assuming their husbands would let them vote, and wished me well. In 2016, I stood again in a by-election in Batley and Spen, Yorkshire. It was a sensitive campaign owing to the fact that it had been triggered by the tragic murder of a sitting MP called Joe Cox. The main parties decided not to field candidates out of respect, they said, forsaking the constituents and their concerns. I decided to stand not just to ensure that the locals had a choice in the election, but to represent the victims of Muslim rape gangs in the area. And during my campaign, I received letters from the victims of Muslim rape gangs who thanked me for standing and asked me to please keep my word that I would champion their cause, and I did. I forwarded these letters to the local Labour Party, only to be ignored and then lambasted on national and local television for being far-right. Apparently sharing concerns of rape victims is now considered sowing division. While politicians sip champagne in the celebration of their almost certain victory, the victims sat at home wondering if they would ever get closure. The media called me vile Jack Buckby. They revelled in the fact that as a young teenager I voted for the BNP. Just like 1 million other disenfranchised working class people who so desperately needed someone to talk about immigration did. More recently, Antifa set out to once and for all ruin my life. They had already successfully gotten me expelled from university, got me attacked relentlessly in the press, and considered unanimously as a far-right extremist. They now wanted to see me destroyed emotionally. So on February 8th, I received a phone call from the FBI. They had already spoken to my fiancée and explained to me that we were under investigation following a number of anonymous tips saying that I was planning to enter America to commit terrorist acts. They told the FBI that my engagement to an American citizen was a sham to obtain a green card, and as a result I am, for now at least, unable to enter. They knew very well that this would cause significant distress in my life, having set out to destroy my fiancée's career only a few weeks before. Antifa and similar organisations had called every single one of her employers, spreading vicious lies throughout the performing arts community, claiming she is a Nazi and a white supremacist, and threatening backlash and boycott against anyone who worked with her. She's been without work for almost. The left will not stop until they see anyone who doesn't subscribe to their dogma penniless, homeless, ostracised, reviled, imprisoned, emotionally destroyed, disgraced, libelled, ferociously attacked by the press, expelled from universities, violently attacked and completely silenced. But not me. I won't let them win. I refuse to. I will continue championing the rights of rape victims ignored by feminists, students neglected by professors, the working class betrayed by establishment con artists, and most of all, I will stand up for the rights of anyone who still believes in freedom of thought and of expression here in Britain or anywhere that free speech and Western values are under attack.
Folks, if you can, go to www.jackbuckby.co.uk/help to help Jack and Martina, his fiancée, in their seemingly never-ending battle against anti-fascists and the personal attacks they're going through. Well, folks, after that, we packed in a lot of show. It's time to shut this sucker down. From the People's Republic of New York City, Gene Barrelli behind enemy lines, we are out of here. Good night, folks. Our position has been compromised. It's time to roll out. Report for debriefing at www.behindenemylinesradio.us and look for regular communications via Facebook and Twitter at BEL_radio. You are the resistance. Behind Enemy Lines. A rock radio production. Copyright 2016. Back in 7 days. Out.